Hey guys, it's Miss Howard, and today we are continuing on with character and word inferencing. You guys have been doing great with that, and so we want to take it up a notch, and you're going to show your inferencing skills in a written form. Don't worry, we're going to walk you through it. So let's go ahead and get started. So, first of all, we know what an inference is really quickly. It's combining the facts the author gives us with what we already know to come to a conclusion. Okay, so now what? It's time to break down the process of how you got your inference. So let's get to it. So first, we're going to practice word inferencing together. Our question is, before we read our passage, is what does ingenious mean? So Daedalus was an ingenious artist and was not discouraged by his failures. Minos may control the land and sea, he said, but he does not control the air. I will try that way. And just before we get into this, I want to remind you guys, this is from the Flight of Icarus. So Daedalus is Icarus's father, and Daedalus and Icarus, they have decided to glue together wings and actually take feathers and construct wings so that they can take flight over the sea. All right, so now that we've gotten a little refresher, let's go ahead and get into making our inference as to what ingenious means. Okay, so when we're doing our word inferencing, we have the 4 steps that we need to follow. So the first one is, does the sentence define the word? So take a look at it really quickly and see if ingenious is defined in this passage. If you answered no, you're correct. Ingenious is not being defined here. So we can move on to number 2. So number 2 is look at where the word is in the sentence and the suffix to figure out what type of word it is. All right, let's take a look at where it is. So it's in between and the word artist. Okay, so artist is a noun, it's a person. So ingenious must be a describing word to describe artist. Okay, so we know it's an adjective. Okay, so if we're looking at the suffix is OUS. Okay, and OUS also tells us that it's a describing word. All right, so we know that ingenious is a describing word. What is it describing? The artist. So we're ready for number 3. Think about similar looking words. All right, so let's take a look at the word ingenious. Are there any words that we actually do know that might look similar to the word ingenious? Right, genius. Genius is a word that we know, and it's right in the middle of this word. And we also know that genius is somebody that's really smart or clever. And lastly, for number 4, we use the other words in the sentence to construct a guess. All right, so we know that we've got a genius artist here, okay? So he's really smart and clever. So if we look back up, it said, Minos may control the land and sea, he said, but he does not control the air. I would try that way. So our really smart artist, it looks like he's not giving up and he's going to find a solution to his problem. So now that we know what ingenious means, we're ready to construct our written response. You'll have sentence stems just like these, so let's go ahead and practice so you know exactly what you need to do. The first one is, I think the word ingenious means. So we were able to link the word ingenious with the word we do know, which is genius. And we know that a genius is smart, clever, and inventive. So we'll add that. So I think the word ingenious means clever and inventive. Next, I think this because it says, this is where you will put in evidence directly from the text to tell why you think that word means what it does. So the evidence that supports our inference is right from our text. He was not discouraged by his failures, but he does not control the air. I will try that way. So this evidence supports our inference because you have to be clever and inventive to find solutions to your problems. Okay, and lastly, you'll fill in, this makes me think blank because blank. So now we're actually getting to the hard part right now, because this is where you have to explain how you got your answer. You have to explain how you know what you know. Okay, so in this first blank, you'll actually put your inference here. Okay, so our inference is that ingenious means clever and inventive, so we'll get that put here. And then in this blank here, you'll just put it all together and explain your answer. So let's take a look at that. So it says, this makes me think the word ingenious means clever. And see, I took that right back to our inference because He didn't give up and found a solution to a difficult problem. So that is how you complete a written response for a word inference. Let's go ahead and try it with the character inference. So for our character inferencing practice, we're going to continue on with another portion from the Flight of Icarus. So the question that we want to be able to answer and the inferences that we want to make is about how is Daedalus feeling? Soon Icarus was sure that he too could fly. Raising his arms up and down, Daedalus watched him proudly but with misgivings. He called Icarus to his side and putting his arm around the boy's shoulders said, Icarus, my son, we are about to make our flight. No human being has ever traveled through the air before, and I want you to listen carefully to my instructions. Keep at a moderate height, for if you fly too low, the fog and spray will clog your wings, and if you fly too high, the heat will melt the wax that holds them together. Keep near me, and you will be safe. And remember, with character inferencing, we always want to figure out the it says, I say, and so process. So let's go ahead and get to it. So I've gone ahead and highlighted what it says in this passage. Daedalus watched him proudly, but with misgivings. Okay, and I will let you guys know that misgivings means doubts. So Daedalus is watching Icarus proudly, but he has doubts. I've also highlighted if you fly too high, the heat will melt the wax that holds them together. This is what he's trying to warn Icarus about. So we'll get those two things added to our it says section. So I've got that added to our chart. Daedalus is proud, but with misgivings. And also, if Icarus flies too high, the heat will melt the wax that holds the wings. So if Daedalus is proud, but with misgivings, and remember I told you that misgivings means doubt. So Daedalus is proud, but he's just very doubtful about Icarus being successful. So wouldn't we just say that Daedalus has doubts? Yeah. And then if Icarus flies too high, the heat will melt the wax that holds the wings. So if that's what it says, if the wax, which is holding the wings together, melts and he's flying, Icarus will probably fall and may possibly die. So I've got that added. That I say portion that Daedalus has doubts. And also, if Icarus flies too high, he will die. So now that we've got the it says and the I say, we're ready to put that together to make our inference. And so remember the question is, how is Daedalus, which is Icarus' dad, feeling right now? So if Daedalus already has his doubts about Icarus flying, and then if Icarus is flying too high, he may possibly die. How do you think Daedalus, who's Icarus' father, would feel right now? Yes, Daedalus is worried about his son Icarus. So now that we've made our inference, we're ready to show our work in a written response. So first, I think Daedalus is feeling blank. Well, we've already got our inference made, so we know now that Daedalus is feeling worried. So we'll get that added. I think Daedalus is feeling worried about his son Icarus. Next is, I think this is because it says blank. So again, this is where we show our evidence that came directly from the text. Okay, so it says, remember, it comes directly from the text. So we can get that added here. I think this because it says Daedalus watched him proudly, but with misgivings. And again, we know misgivings means doubt. So we've got our inference, and we've got our text evidence. So lastly, again, this is our hard part. Okay, first we put here, we go back to our inference here. Okay, an inference about Daedalus being worried. And then this last portion, we have to explain our answer. We have, this makes me think Daedalus is worried about Icarus. Okay, that is our inference, that he's worried because he doesn't know if Icarus will listen to his warning. And if Icarus does not listen to his father's warning, he could possibly die. All right, guys, so we have shown you how to complete a written response for a word and character inference. All right, guys, so now it's your turn to complete those sentence stems and show your work. If you have any questions, please email your teacher or come to tutorials at 11 o'clock. See you soon.